I got started in the industry. I was at the University of Western Ontario doing a biochem degree, and I was doing dance shows because I'd always danced ballet and modern dance when I was young. I just liked it. And I was doing those, and then that led to some plays. And I sort of see it this way. This is me going down the steps of the chem building to my biochem experiments for 40 hours a week, and it felt like descending. And then this was me at night going to the rehearsals for the plays I was doing, and it was so exciting. I was 28 years old when I started studying in Los Angeles with a woman named Sandy Marshall. I had shot series leads, I'd shot blockbuster movies, and I had no idea why on a Tuesday I could be good and on a Wednesday I'd be dreadful, even if we were shooting a continuum of the same scene. And then I started doing this repetition work, and that night, the first night, all of a sudden I understood quite literally everything that had always plagued me, which was the veil between me and this thing called character. And I understood there's no such thing as character, it's me. Different aspects of me, different voices, different ways of walking or talking, but it's me. And all of a sudden it just became, honestly, all the joy and fun and excitement that acting always felt like it could be. The biggest thing for me that makes someone a good scene partner is if I have no idea what they're gonna do next. When they just come in and they've worked out exactly what they're gonna do, they might do it very well, but there'll be no chance for a surprise for me, and therefore the audience. So if I don't know what you're gonna do, then I'm really excited to work with you. For acting class, the biggest pitfall is when a teacher adheres to the break you down to build you up principle, but doesn't know how to build you up. There's too many teachers out there. You know, I'm 45 right now, and if you put a 20-year-old in front of me, there's a good chance I'll be able to see a lot of their psyche. You know, the wheel turns, things repeat. It's not that hard to suggest to a 20-year-old they have mom issues or dad issues or what. It's writ pretty large if you live fully and dive through your own experience. But it can be very damaging if you don't know what to do with that in a way to nurture and grow, especially with the very eagerness that young actors and artists come with, which is, I will do whatever you ask. The number of students I have who say, you can be so hard on me, I'm like, I'm not gonna. I'll give you the next note in terms of the work. But in any case, anytime a teacher has that breakdown mentality but doesn't have the skills to build up, it's such a pitfall, and I think it's actually psychologically damaging. The one thing the people I teach who are talented come up against the most is not knowing how to break in. So my advice is you have to create something or become part of something that has the possibility of getting noticed. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. If you're 22, nobody knows you exist, nobody cares. And you have to make that short film or be in that play that gets well reviewed, and if the one doesn't, you keep going. You gotta do something that will make an agent want to put their work and their effort and their intensity behind you. And I don't know what that is. Everybody's got to find their own version of that. What is my most memorable moment on set? I've got a really bad one. I may as well tell it. This one was brutal. I'd been smoking crystal meth and shooting heroin for like a week. And I went to set on General Hospital, and I'd been not doing well in the show. I'd been being written out, and you know, I started really auspiciously on that show, but I was dealing with a drug addiction, and I went and I was doing this scene with a guy named Steve Burton, and I had one line. And I walk out and my cheeks are just dripping sweat, and I'm just like, and I can't get the line out. And I mean, I'm fucking great with lines, and I just mangle this thing. And he just looks at me and goes, why are your cheeks sweating? And I was like, oh, I ate an apple, and that sometimes makes my cheeks sweat. Not untrue, by the way. Anyways, it's memorable for how brutal it was. I finally got the line out. It was the last or second last time I ever shot on that show. You know, I got fired eventually. Another one that's much more positive is years later, when I'd sort of, you know, gotten out of that shit, was shooting a movie called Populaire in Paris. And I'm shooting with a guy named Romain Duris, who's just divine as an actor, lovely guy. And I'm just there at the foot of the Eiffel Tower. And to be honest, having been through such a rough ride with my own personal stuff, you know, nobody's guaranteed an acting career, let alone two. So I basically demolished round one, got destroyed, and then got to, you know, a couple years later, be at the foot of the Eiffel Tower shooting a feature film with this guy and a couple other brilliant French actors, and just looking up and taking it in and being genuinely grateful. Even in my successful year, I might shoot 100 days, the most successful year I've ever had, where I'm getting paid and I'm being flown around the world. That's still only half what a normal person works. There's too much free time. And if you don't have a life that's full and beautiful, it doesn't always have to be beautiful, but full and matters away from acting, the second the acting isn't phenomenal, i.e. you're hired or you're whatever, your sense of self is just diminished. And again, if we go back to my contention that you're the thing we're hiring, if you get smaller every time you don't get hired because that's all that matters to you, that to me is the biggest pitfall of all. And then you'll look for ways to feel good. Won't necessarily be substance abuse, but it's important to emanate from the inside out. And I think that's true for anybody, actors or not.